It was a quiet evening in Phloi, a small district in western Thailand. The kind of place where people still left their doors unlocked and children played in the fading light without fear. But that illusion of safety would be torn apart in an instant. The sun had already dipped below the horizon. The air was heavy and warm. 11-year-old Arthit Nuangwi was walking home, barefoot and carefree, after an evening of games with his friends. He didn't know that just a few hundred meters away, a predator, one that should never have been there, was breaking free. The lioness's name was Mahasi. Just a year old, raised not in the wild but in captivity, in the backyard of a local social media influencer named Parinya Parkpum. He had called her gentle, playful, tame. Online, she was content, her golden fur gleaming under soft light, a picture of exotic beauty. But behind the camera, instincts slept like embers under ash. And that night something snapped. Her enclosure was under renovation, so Mahasi had been tethered outside, a steel chain around her neck. But steel isn't stronger than nature. The link gave way with a crack, and suddenly the lioness was free, no longer a pet, no longer controlled. Just wild instinct, teeth and hunger awakened. Arthit turned the corner toward home. He might have heard a rustle, a low sound, almost like a growl carried on the breeze. Before he could turn again, the world exploded. The lioness struck him from behind, claws raking his side. The force threw him to the ground. Her jaws clamped around his hip, dragging him across the dirt. The scream that tore from the boy's throat shattered the quiet of the neighborhood. Neighbors later said it didn't sound human at first, too sharp, too raw. Some thought it was a dog fight, but one man knew better. Sarawat Tokyo, 43, had just sat down to dinner when he heard the screams. First he froze. His mind refused to connect the sound with what it could mean. But then came another cry, high-pitched, terrified, and unmistakably human. He grabbed a flashlight and ran. The beam of light cut through the darkness, and there it was. The boy, small and fragile, pinned beneath the bulk of a lioness. Her fur glowed gold under the light, her claws glinting red. She was no longer the playful pet of viral videos. She was what she was born to be. Without thinking, Sarawat grabbed a stick, then a rock, striking at the lioness's head. Once, twice, she snarled, turned on him, eyes burning. But something in that moment, a noise, a distraction, made her hesitate. She loosened her grip, and Sarawat lunged, pulling the boy away. The lioness backed off, pacing in circles, low growls rumbling through the air. And then, just as suddenly as she had appeared, she retreated, melting back into the darkness from where she came. Arthit was bleeding badly, his side torn, his small frame trembling. Sarawat held him, shouting for help, his own arm gashed from the lioness's claws. When paramedics arrived minutes later, the street was chaos. Neighbors yelling, children crying, flashlights flickering through the night. They rushed Arthit to Phloi Hospital, sirens slicing through the air. His mother rode with him, tears streaming, whispering prayers that the boy could barely hear. At the hospital, doctors worked quickly, stitching, transfusing, stabilizing. The boy had deep bite wounds and fractures, but somehow, he survived. And that word, somehow, echoed across Thailand the next morning. News spread fast. A lioness, owned by a Thai influencer, had mauled a child in his own neighborhood. Parinya Parkpum, the 32-year-old owner, said it was an accident, that Mahasi had never hurt anyone before, that she'd only been scared. He apologized publicly, offered to cover the medical costs, his voice trembling on social media. But the apology did little to calm the outrage. People wanted to know, why was a wild predator living next to families? How had this lioness, an animal meant for the savannas of Africa, ended up on the streets of Thailand, among homes and schools? The questions turned to anger, and the anger turned to law. Wildlife officials arrived within hours, tranquilizer guns in hand. They found Mahasi near the property, pacing, restless, still stained from the attack. She was sedated, placed in a reinforced cage, and later transported to a wildlife rehabilitation center. Perinya was charged under Thailand's Wildlife Conservation and Protection Act, a law rarely enforced, but crystal clear. Keeping or failing to restrain a wild animal could mean up to 6 months in prison, or a fine of 50,000 baht. Days later, Arthit woke up in a hospital bed, weak but alive. His first question wasn't about his wounds, it was about his dog, whether it had been safe that night. Doctors called his survival extraordinary. The lioness's bite could have ruptured his organs, the claws could have torn arteries. But somehow they hadn't. His mother said later that he still flinched at sudden sounds, that some nights he woke up screaming, reliving the moment when the world went silent except for the growl behind him. The community changed overnight. Children no longer played in the streets after dark. Parents walked them to school, scanning the tree lines as if the wild might return. Because the truth was unsettling. The lioness wasn't wild by birth. Humans made her this way, trapped between two worlds. Too tame to belong to the jungle, too wild to belong in a cage. Experts spoke out. Even a young lion is still a predator, one biologist said. No matter how gentle it seems, its instincts never vanish. The message was clear. Domestication doesn't erase nature. It only delays it. In Thailand, as in many parts of the world, exotic pets have become a symbol of fame, status, attention. They appear in photos, in videos, in viral clips. A tiger cub in someone's arms. A lioness lounging beside a swimming pool. But what those clips don't show is what happens when instinct takes over, when wild eyes recognize fear, and training becomes meaningless. Because here's the truth. The wild doesn't forgive mistakes. It doesn't matter if you love it, feed it, or believe it knows your face. To the lioness, to the bear, to the wolf, the human world is just a fragile illusion. Weeks after the attack, Arthit returned home. His friends greeted him shyly, uncertain. The scars ran deep, both on his skin and in the town's memory. And though the lioness was gone, taken far away to a sanctuary, her presence lingered. In whispers, in questions. Could it happen again? Was there another one out there, waiting? The fear of what happened that night still hangs in Phloi, a reminder that safety is never guaranteed, and the line between civilization and chaos is thinner than we think. Imagine stepping out into your own street one night, hearing a cry in the dark, realizing the predator isn't in some distant jungle, but right there, in your world. Would you run toward the danger? Or would you freeze, caught between fear and disbelief? Because in the end, that's what this story is really about. Not just a lioness, not just a boy, but the moment when our illusion of control shatters, and the wild looks back at us. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to remember that nature doesn't play by our rules, and subscribe for more stories that reveal how thin the line truly is between the world we build, and the one that can take it all away in a heartbeat.